Today, we're cutting through some of the noise around psychedelics. We want to answer a pretty specific question for you. What is the most used psychedelic here in the United States? And, well, what's driving its rise?
Yeah, it's a topic that's full of some unexpected turns, really. While certain substances might pop into your head first, the recent data actually paints a very clear picture. And it brings up a pretty significant public health discussion, too.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. We've gone through quite a few sources, including a recent RAND report. And, when you think psychedelics, these potent substances that really alter perception, mood, maybe you think LSD, MDMA.
Sure, those are common assumptions.
But what we found about the top psychedelic in the US, it might genuinely surprise you.
That's right. I mean, MDMA certainly has a significant global user base, no doubt.
Mm.
But a June 2024 RAND report, it definitively points to psilocybin, from magic mushrooms, as the most frequently used psychedelic right here in the U.S.
Wow, psilocybin. That feels like a huge shift. Just in 2023, they estimate around 8 million American adults reported using. And the surge has been dramatic. Since just 2019, lifetime use among adults jumped from 10% to over 12% by 2023. And what's really striking, a 188% increase among older adults in just 4 years.
SIP is remarkable.
By last year, psilocybin use actually overtook the number of adults using cocaine, LSD, meth, even illicit opioids.
It's quite something. And what's fascinating here is, how this rapid increase seems to be driven by several factors coming together. First off, psilocybin isn't exactly new, right? It has these deep historical roots. We're talking centuries of use by indigenous Mesoamerican cultures.
Right, that historical context, it sort of lends it a perceived legitimacy, maybe, that other substances just don't have.
Exactly. And then you layer on this burgeoning psychedelic renaissance that everyone's talking about. Psilocybin is being seriously explored for treating things like depression, anxiety, PTSD.
Yeah, I've seen those studies.
And with some really promising results, even in cases that are resistant to, conventional therapies.
So people are hearing about that. And we're also seeing this trend of individuals trying to self-medicate, maybe for anxiety or chronic pain, often because there's this therapeutic gap, where traditional treatments just aren't cutting it for them.
Absolutely. And that shift in the whole narrative from purely illicit recreational drug to potential therapeutic tool that significantly lowers the perceived risk for many people.
Makes sense.
And it's not just therapy. There's the recreational side, of course, and also microdosing. That's taking tiny, subperceptual doses for maybe enhanced creativity or focus.
Right, I've heard about that too.
So that means a large chunk of this use actually comes from people using it infrequently, not necessarily chronic heavy users.
And then, of course, the changing legal landscape has to be a massive driver. Oregon legalizing psilocybin for supervised mental health use back in 2020. Then Colorado decriminalized it in 2022. That, plus all the media attention, it's really transforming public perception. Kind of mirrors what we saw with cannabis, maybe.
Very similar trajectory in terms of public perception and policy shifts. The link between those policy changes and the surge in use seems pretty undeniable.
Yeah.
And there's one more key factor, I think, which is its accessibility. Psilocybin's natural origin makes it kind of unique in this space. You can, in theory, cultivate mushrooms.
Ah, right.
And in many places, the spores themselves are actually legal to possess. That gives it a really clear accessibility advantage over synthetic psychedelics, like LSD, for instance.
Okay, so putting it all together, what does this mean for you, the listener? We've sort of explored how psilocybin climbed to the top spot in the U.S., driven by, its deep history, this growing therapeutic buzz, the changing laws, and just being easier to get hold of.
Indeed. And what's really crucial to consider here is the paradox. While psilocybin is generally seen as physiologically pretty safe and, not typically addictive, this dramatic surge in unsupervised use, it definitely brings some significant public health considerations to the forefront.
Like what?
Well, for example, that striking 723% increase in U.S. poison control calls for young kids, like 11 and under.
Wow, 723%?
Yeah, due to accidental ingestion of edibles, often mushroom edibles. It's a stark indicator of the risks when use becomes widespread and, crucially, unsupervised.
It really does make you think about that balance, doesn't it, between all the scientific promise and, public safety.
Precisely.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe something to consider is this. How can society responsibly integrate the potential benefits of these substances? Substances with such profound history and emerging therapeutic significance, while also guarding against the very real risks that come with wide, unsupervised use.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Something to mull over until our next deep dive.